Welcome, everyone. My name is Aspen Chin. I'm a community leader here in Aurora. And here I have Miss Gail and Allen Robnett here for the Fire Chief finalists. So, Miss Gail, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Gail Pugh, and I've lived in the Aurora community for about 22 years, and I love living in Aurora.
Yes, look, I love that too. And Alan, welcome. Thank you
Thank
for,
you.
yes, of course. Could you give us a little intro? Who are you?
Sure, I'm Allen Robnett. I've been a firefighter for the city of Aurora for a little over 33 years. I've been through the ranks. I went through EMT. I was a fire investigator, which involved going to police academy in '96 and becoming a post-certified officer there. Lieutenant, captain. As a captain, I was PIO for the department. Then I became a battalion chief. I worked on all shifts in all three battalions at that time. Now there's 4 battalions.
Oh, wow.
And then I was promoted to commander and came up to fire headquarters as part of the executive staff.
Okay. Are you Colorado native?
Yes, I
Oh,
was born on
wow.
Fitzsimmons Army Medical Base.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's so cool. So, yeah, definitely you have some history out in the
Yeah.
city. You're familiar.
Yes.
Okay, that is amazing. Well, this first question will probably be very familiar to you. What is your plan to promote and progress Aurora Fire in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what would be some of your best practices?
That is a hot button issue, but it's not a new issue, unfortunately. I joined the recruitment team in 2008. I started heading the recruitment team in 2009. So this has been a long-standing issue, a struggle, to be honest, and it's challenging. We are trying to attract people who have a historic and generational distrust for government and public safety. And so we have tried a lot of different techniques. We have to continue to adjust our techniques until we become successful. But in all frankness, we haven't been successful yet. And so moving forward, we know that to attract the people that we need to come in and help diversify our fire department, it's going to be one-on-one communications, advertisement, websites, things like that. Those just aren't effective. So we have to have a recruitment team who's committed to the process, and we have to send them out with the tools they need to be successful, and one-on-one talk to potential candidates and bring them to the city of Aurora.
So, like the value of relationship building.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The next question, we had some really good questions from our community. And this question is, Aurora Fire Rescue currently remains in care and rides in to the hospital on all ALS calls, while FOC, the ambulance provider, has paramedics on board their ambulances. Will you change this policy in order to keep our city's apparatus and crews in district ready to respond to other fire or EMS calls?
Okay, so what we're talking about here is maintaining medical control all the way to the ER door, basically. This is actually a very strong policy for our agency, and because the patient that we are treating right now, that's the most important patient, the patient that is right in front of you. And we need to ensure that our citizens get the best care all the way to the door of the ER. Now, we have broadened the ride-in policy quite a bit recently, and allowed our medics to turn patients over to the FOC ALS providers, and those adjustments will continue to be made in the future. But we know that our medics are senior medics. They get a lot of experience, and they've been, the longevity on the fire department is considerably greater than that with a private ambulance provider. So we want to ensure the best care for our citizens.
That's great. Thank you. So, over this past journey you've had, what would you say would be your biggest accomplishment in your past departments?
And you mean in my career?
Yes.
Biggest accomplishments, as a firefighter, we see a lot of people in bad situations, and we understand that our citizens have to trust us a little different than they do most other city agencies. They rely on us. They confide in us some very personal and intimate details in order for us to render care. And so when you get a plate of cookies, you think that's really superficial. It doesn't mean, but that means that we provided that citizen care. So when we get those thank yous, that's a huge accomplishment. More recently, I was able to help our department with some mental health services, expand the mental health services, because those traumas that we go and see affect the firefighters as well as the citizens. And so we have to be diligent in maintaining a healthy workforce, both physically and mentally. And so providing that care for our firefighters is a tremendous accomplishment as well.
And just, following up on that, what do you think has been your biggest failure in your department?
My personal biggest failure?
Yes, or just something that's been hard.
So there's been a lot of things that are challenging, in the fire service, and it spans from personal fitness goals to service delivery. And one of my biggest, what I consider one of my biggest failures was we had a cadet program that did not prosper. And so that's something that if I'm fortunate enough to be selected as a fire chief, we're going to pick that program up and we're going to dust it off and we're going to make it work.
Thank you.
Yes. So I think you kind of touched on this previously, but as you probably know, staffing issues appear to be an issue across the country. What are your plans to fix issues in the department, and did you implement this plan in your last department?
Okay, this is my last department, so yes. So in the fire service, it's particularly the City of Aurora Fire Service, it's not that we have problems getting people to apply for the position. We don't. We put out the sign that says we're hiring, and we get a lot of applicants. It's getting those diversity in the applicants that we have to work on. And so that's the challenge. And as we did talk earlier, we have to be intentional and strategic about how we go about and recruit people who don't normally consider this as a viable career option. So we have to present ourselves, we have to present our city, and let people know what a valuable career this is.
Yes.
Absolutely. Visibility and accessibility are important in being a leader. Do you feel like you were visible and accessible to your firefighters and community in your current department?
Absolutely. What I do is, and it benefits me probably more than the members, but I'm able to get out of the office and go. I typically will try to have lunch at the fire station, but spend some time in the fire station. We have 17 fire stations, so it's a lot. And it's, with the schedules and the meeting schedules, we can't let that dictate the fact that we don't go out and see the members. So I put it on my calendar and block that time out when I can go out to the fire stations. And, I don't go out there with an agenda. I say, okay, let me have it, and let people, kind of just free form throw questions and concerns. And I've learned a tremendous amount of a lot of the concerns that I had to address as the interim fire chief. I got straight from the line in that fashion.
And then if you are hired in this new position, how will you go about connecting with the community if they're as a whole, as a fire chief, if you're hired?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, we have a unique relationship with our community, and they have to trust us, in a very intimate way. So what we do is we've already started an adopt a school program that's been going for years. However, being involved in community events, being involved at HOAs, and so that's something that I'm very passionate about. We make sure that we engage with like Children's Hospital and engage the children in that way. So we want to be available to that. We also offer, commemorative, like we rode Santa Claus in to the tree lighting this year, events like that. But we're mindful of when we engage in the communities and day-to-day stuff, when we go to the grocery store to shop, when we're out doing building inspections, we engage with the community. And a big part of that is, in the summer months, of course, is making sure those fire station doors are open so that the citizens can come in and see and talk to us and look at the apparatus and et cetera.
Yes. So that definitely ties into this next question. The emergency management field is evolving rapidly, and with the increase in both natural and human-caused threats throughout the United States and around the world, there is a greater need for emergency managers to come together to solve this complex problem. So how would you define the emergency management, and how can it be a successful program in the city of Aurora?
So we have a fantastic emergency manager, OEM team, and the emergency manager has a tremendous amount of experience in his position. And they do some extensive training. They plan, they make the emergency management plans, and then they do the training, real world functional exercises to engage the citizens, to engage the other departments in the city, so that we can be as prepared as possible for unforeseen events that happen, whether it be man-made or natural. We would like to highlight that team a little more than we have in the past. We want to show the citizens their value and what they do, and we also want the directors of each department to see the value and resources that they bring to them, and have them set up on a little higher on the podium so that people can see exactly how they work and what the benefits to the citizens are when they are supported.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'm sure, Chief, that you're aware of some of the relationships between police and firefighters, police officers and firefighters, not so much administratively,
Okay.
those folks, but the folks boots on the ground have been a bit strained for the past several years. And so what would you do to improve those relationships?
Well, we started years back, and we need to get back to it, but we often invite police officers to come into the fire station. If you see, sometimes you'll see a police officer at a Starbucks or stuff. Well, we don't think they should go to Starbucks for their coffee. They should come to the firehouse for their coffee. And when we are in non-emergency situations, if we can talk, collaborate, get to know each other, it makes the emergency situations go so much smoother. So we reach out to the police officers on the street. We try to do it from a crew-to-crew basis. And, often police officers work in the same areas repeatedly, so they get to know specific crews, and those are the best relationships. So that we try to encourage those personal relationships on non-emergency situations, so that during the emergency we already know each other.
And I know we're winding down a bit here, but I had a question. You know, personally, I'm a fire inspector, so I come from that background, and I just kind of wanted to know what were some of your thoughts around our current fire prevention program and the inspection program, to see if there's anything that you would want to add or to change to that.
Well, we have, as you are aware, we have tremendous fire inspectors and the inspection program. And we mirror well with the building department, but there are some, some places where we can enhance and improve how the building department giving a certificate of occupancy and literally doing the first fire inspection in order to accomplish that. We can marry with them at that time and jointly do these occupancy checks, and then start incorporating some of the line crews in those initial inspections, so that they know the structures they're going to that are coming up in their area, and they can pre-plan for events. And involving those inspectors in all of the pre-plans for significant structures in the city is really important. So those are some of the ways that we could enhance those relationships as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this will definitely be the final question, but to piggyback off of what Gail said, tell me a little bit about your philosophy on changing the landscape of emergency medical services, and what emerging trends would benefit our community, and how we can leverage our existing public-private partnerships in doing so.
So when the public-private partnership is with our transport agency, many departments across the country transport themselves. They are the transport agency. We've always had this public-private partnership, and we have tremendous partners in Falk, Rocky Mountain. We would like to enhance that. We want to look at some alternative response models, in the sense that, do we need, we classify calls on severity, and some of the lower severity calls, do we need to send as many paramedics to as we do now? Can we send, maybe even send a ambulance on a call without a fire resource to enhance the response capabilities? And so we work with our partners. They are open and they're very collaborative with us, and we are actively entertaining alternative response models to enhance the service to the citizens.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alan, for joining us
you.
and answering these questions. Gail, for your amazing questions.
And thank the citizens for submitting the questions. That's
Yes.
really important. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. They were some really amazing questions. So be sure to stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon.